Nurture and support begins in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode number 1 of Nurture and Support. This is Kelly Toole at Kelly Toole, Thul, on Twitter. And with me, as always, as my co-host, is Mel.
Hi, guys. It's Mel at Karmic9 on Twitter. You can call me Mel or Melissa or sometimes Martha.
Martha, could be. Well, I don't know if we should be looking forward to Martha's appearance or not, but we'll
Martha is my evil alter ego, and you really don't want to meet her, but she comes out sometimes all by herself. So.
Yeah, and I just realized kind of the whole with me as always is kind of for an episode 1 is a pretty lame statement to make, but
hey.
It is true, right?
It's true. We've been hanging out on Twitter for a very long time, and we've been hanging out for, I don't know, a year, maybe longer. I lose track of time.
I'm not a detail guy.
Yeah.
I think
it's maybe been 2. I'm not sure.
I think it's
the older I get, the less time matters.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And keeping track of it gets harder for me, for sure.
Yeah.
So, if you had a chance to listen to our little fine intro, you knew that our objective here is to just basically take the opportunity to share with each other cool things we found. It might be an app, it might be a game, a book, podcasts, music, whatever, with the idea of just finding new things to try out, sharing that with other folks, hope that they enjoy them and like them too. We just kind of go back and forth in sharing different things, and we're going to start off with Melissa. And go.
All right. Well, I've got a book to recommend, which y'all will find is pretty common for me. I like to read, and I don't promise that anything that I'm going to be recommending is going to be very cutting edge or anything like that. But I think a lot of people haven't read this book, and I'd love to recommend it to people who like science fiction. It's by John Scalzi. That's Scalzi, and it's a book called Redshirts. And if you're familiar with Star Trek in any variety, you know the old joke about red shirts. And so he wrote a book. It, of course, is not set in Star Trek universe, but it's very similar. You could call it kind of a spoof, but it's a very good science fiction book that's very lighthearted. I think it's very accessible for a lot of people who may not like to read space opera. So it's a good science fiction book. It's, of course, on Amazon, but John Scalzi is a very active blogger. He's also active on Twitter, and you can reach his blog called whatever.com. That's how long he's been blogging, as he has the website whatever.com, and he's written all sorts of things. But Redshirts is the book of his I'm recommending today. And that flows into my second recommendation.
Before you go to your second recommendation, Mel, so how many pictures are in Redshirts? Is it a book full of lots of pictures?
There are no pictures.
There are no pop-ups things?
There are no pictures. Oh. And I guess I could tell you a little bit more what it's about. Basically, it's about an ensign who joins up on this starship and finds all of these very goofy things happens, but red shirts tend to die. If you go on an away mission with the captain, you're going to die. And they have all of these little rituals that they do trying to make it not be them. And then one of them gets a brain and tries to figure out why this always happens. So that's basically what the book is about. It's a little meta. It's got some weird stuff in there, but it's very approachable. And then at the very end of the book, he throws in a few, he calls them codas, but basically after the main story, about some of the characters that are really very interesting and really do add a lot of depth to the story. But I like to recommend it to people that don't particularly like your space opera variety of science fiction, because it's not this long epic. It's not a very long book. And if you don't like to read books, Will Wheaton does the audio book, which is even better, because then you have Wesley Crusher reading you the audio book. And he and Scalzi are big friends. And Will Wheaton actually has gotten into doing a lot of audiobooks lately, which I'm sure will come up in future recommendations. But
about you, and you may have mentioned it, I missed it though, about what year was this published?
It's not that old.
Not that old.
Maybe 2 years. Let me see.
Okay. Yeah, because I love the idea of the self-aware red shirt. Someone who knows that their lot in life is not a good one. And
Yes.
and you've seen Galaxy Quest, right?
I actually haven't.
Oh.
I'm such a terrible nerd. I know.
So this is like a pseudo recommendation. It's not on the official recommendation list, but you will hear more on the Galaxy Quest later. We'll do that. But there is a wonderfully self-aware red shirt in.
I keep being told that it's the best Star Trek movie ever made. So I haven't watched it yet. I don't know what happened when it came out that I missed it, and it's just one of those that I've never gotten around to watching it. But the book actually came out June of 2012, so it's not very old. And it did, I believe, win a Hugo. I could be wrong about that, but I think he won a Hugo for Redshirts. It's a really good book. I recommend it highly.
Cool. And then what we're going to try and do, like on all this stuff, is on the nurtureandsupport.net website, is we'll put up some links to John's blog, whatever.com, anything we can regarding the book and other goodies on that as well.
Right. We will link you up.
Absolutely. So the fact it doesn't have a lot of pictures is trouble, but the fact that it's not long helps. so that will be
really
cool.
isn't. And it's a really fast, easy read. And I have listened to the audiobook and read the book, and I'm very picky about my audiobooks. The narrators really ruin a lot of audiobooks. But Will Wheaton doing this one is really well done, and it's good, and it flows well. So I think you'll enjoy it no matter which version of it you listen to, whether you listen or read or do both with the power of Amazon Prime.
I knew it was just a matter of time before that was brought up, but
yes.
Not having Amazon Prime, I will have to probably be forced to make a choice.
Well, technically you don't have to have Amazon Prime, I don't guess. Amazon has a program, which I guess this could also be another pseudo recommendation. Amazon has a program that for a lot of its actual Kindle books that you buy, you can buy the audiobook from audible.com, which Amazon owns, for a discount, and then you can pick up in the audiobook where you left off reading in the Kindle book, or vice versa. So I have used it quite a bit since they implemented it to help me get more of my reading done, so I can listen sometimes when I'm in the car, or I can listen at work when I'm not supposed to be reading. So it really does help, but of course it does cost a little bit more money.
So this is a journey, and so I think one little discovery I think we're finding already is I believe our summaries of the podcasts and whatever we put on the website are going to include the actual recommendations we offer. But now it appears that there's going to be this camp of pseudo recommendations or ancillary things, and we've got Amazon Prime and Galaxy Quest already working their way in, which is cool.
Because that's how we work.
Yeah.
That's why everybody, not just us, gets lost on the internet. Every time you Google one thing, it leads you down a rabbit hole. So that's how we end up in these places.
So I interrupted you, though. You had talked about that a good book. It was fun. The audio side was awesome, too, but it led you to something else. And what else did it lead you to?
It did. Redshirts is published by Tor, and John Scalzi and Tor commissioned a song about the book by Jonathan Colton. And if you don't know who Jonathan Colton is, he sings songs, what I term nerd music. I think most of them would like to call it rock or pop, but on my playlist on my iPod, it's called nerd music. And he sings a song called Redshirts, which you can find on YouTube if you search for Tor, that's T-O-R, and Redshirts. You will get the YouTube video to come up. It's not like a music video, it's just a static page and then the music is playing. But it is a song about the book, and I absolutely love this song. It's all about being a red shirt. being, as you say, a self-aware red shirt. And it's a really good song. You can find Jonathan Colton's music at his website. He has some zombie ones and some about robot mad scientists. He does all sorts of music that is basically right up my alley, being about nerds and monster pony monkey monsters that a mad scientist has made. And I think you would really like it. He has a zombie one that you especially, I think, would appreciate. It's based on kind of like a business meeting between a zombie and a person, and they just want to eat his brains, that's all, and they need to find some common ground here. I think you would appreciate it.
I definitely, and so is he pretty much, is YouTube the distribution mechanism for stuff, or is he on iTunes as well? Or?
He is on every major one, Amazon, iTunes, CD Baby, but he sells all of his songs on his website, which is jonathancolton.com. And of course, being an indie artist, he makes more money if you buy it directly off of his website. But I would recommend his CD called Best Concert Ever, which is the one that I have. You can, if you buy that one from Amazon, it is the physical version. It's a DVD and the CD, and Amazon will give you the MP3 to immediately download so you can immediately start listening to it. And then in the mail, when it comes, you have a DVD of the concert, which is quite amusing. Wow. But there's quite a few songs on there that are very amusing for those of us who grew up being maybe outcasts. Jonathan Colton was a computer programmer, and probably his most famous song is called Code Monkey, and that's what it's about, is being a computer programmer. And he left all of that to be a rock star in the nerd music genre. But he has been opening up for They Might Be Giants, another great band that I like.
Yes, I'm big. I'm a big They Might Be Giants fan as well, and I've had only one chance to see them live, and it's still etched in my memory that there was directly in front of me a stockier lass, just a little bit, but she was there enjoying the concert, and I think Birdhouse in Your Soul started up, and she started going full bore dancing, and she was committed, but then she didn't pace herself because about a third into the song she's like, okay, I've got to sit down now. She burned herself out during Birdhouse Your Soul. I was like, but it is awesome, and they did when we saw them they pulled songs from the crowd at the end, and they did Sweet Caroline. And they said, we want a song that your mother listens to, and it was Sweet Caroline. And so they did a kick-ass They Might Be Giants version of Sweet Caroline. So
yeah,
definitely.
I'm sure you've heard their version of Tub Thumping too, haven't you?
Yes.
Yes.
Which at some point could have been another great recommendation. But did that site YouTube channel go down? Because I had shared the video out when they recorded it, and then I went back to it later, and then the whole YouTube channel where they had all of those was gone.
I watched it not long ago, maybe a few weeks ago, but maybe it's on a different channel now.
Yeah, that could be, but yeah,
you know how they propagate sometimes. I know I watched it not long ago. For some reason it came back up on my YouTube recommendations, and I was like, I love that one, so I'm going to watch it again.
It is. Oh, I loved it. It was. They're a very, very enjoyable group as well.
Yeah.
So and my guess is we will talk more about They Might Be Giants in future episodes, because they are a many medias they distribute their wares and goods. There's all sorts of different ways you can intersect with They Might Be Giants, and it's pretty fun. So pretty cool there. So actually, the whole reason we do this podcast is because I know that Mel's like into really cool stuff, and now I've got my next CD to go purchase here. So I'm really looking forward to hearing a little bit more of that. And I was familiar with Code Monkey, but I didn't know there was that larger body of work. So it sounds extremely cool.
I was really surprised that I liked as many of the songs as I did. There's a couple always that maybe I don't like. I'm not real fond of Creepy Doll. If you get that CD, you'll find out why. Creepy dolls creep me out, so I don't need to listen to a song about creepy dolls. But the CD is very enjoyable, and there's even a Christmas song on there called Chiron Beta Prime.
A classic.
Yes.
Back in the day.
Yes, and it's about robot Santa Clauses, and you will like it too.
Oh, wow.
I really enjoy it. I've been listening to that CD probably nonstop for at least 2 weeks now, and I really love it. So I recommend to everybody at least check that out, and at least check out Redshirts, because I love that song, and that's what started me into listening to Jonathan Coulton, who, you know, all of the big nerds. He's big friends with Paul and Storm and Will Wheaton. If you're a Twitteraholic, you know who these people are, but you may not have actually listened to their music. So I knew who Jonathan Coulton was, but I had really never listened to much of his stuff before. So I really enjoyed it. So check out John Scalzi's books, particularly Redshirts, and Jonathan Coulton's song Redshirts, and all of his larger body of work.
So when I go purchase Best Concert Ever, since I'm not in the cult of Amazon Prime, am I going to get all of these wonderful, am I going to get the DVD and the CD and the MP3, or is that?
Well, you're definitely, if you buy the physical version, you get, it is a combo DVD CD. So if you buy the physical version, you will, and I don't think it's just for Prime people to get the MP3 download, because that's like that part of that new Amazon RIP service, I think. And trying to get people to buy physical versions of things now where they're giving you the digital version. So I don't think it's particularly for Prime, but that's why I didn't even realize it was a DVD at first. And when I realized, oh, hey, there's the DVD here, and I could either pay the same amount and get just the MP3 songs, or buy the DVD and I can rip the CD, and then realize after I bought it, it says, well, here's the MP3s to download right now. And I went, oh, I love you, Amazon. Because we're friends that way.
That's right, because you're a Prime person. So that's the way it goes. But it sounds cool, and definitely I'm disappointed I didn't have greater awareness of this. This is like
I think
right up my alley.
In particular, will like the Regarding Zombies song in particular.
Excellent.
So check that out.
Well.
So what do you have for us here, Kelly Toole?
Well, I'm feeling kind of scared now, because you kind of knocked it out of the park there with some really, really good stuff. And so now I'm like, well, you can look at this too. It's like, it's not going to be quite as. But actually, I think this stuff is pretty good. And so I've got kind of a cross section of a couple things that all revolve around a gentleman named Scott Stratten. Scott is, and I'm not officially recommending in this show, I will probably officially recommend in a future show, his book Unmarketing, UN Marketing. That was his first book. Scott's a speaker, an author. It's a lot about the use of technology in marketing, and to a certain degree pointing out bad uses of it, things you shouldn't do. It's very much along the lines of trying to move, as we move into this really connected world, with social media type of capabilities we all have now, not just trying to repeat what you've always done in marketing in it, but actually, social media is about connections. It's about sharing information. It's about relationships. And his whole gist is, so do that. Be awesome doing that instead of doing these stupid things. But since you're doing these stupid things, let me show them to you, because they're really kind of funny. And so he lives it. He's very much about the relationships thing. I came across him sometime back on Twitter. Unmarketing is his Twitter account, not surprisingly, and followed him. And pretty quick, he followed right back. When
Cool.
And so I started following him, and he's a very funny guy. He's Canadian, which I'm not going to hold against him whatsoever. He's openly Canadian. He's out of the maple closet.
We love our neighbors to the north.
That's right. They're awesome. I had a chance to see him speak at a keynote at a conference I was at this past week, which kind of brought all this forward to me. As I first connected with him, I was kind of, or seeing as like, he is really funny, but I just had this little edge of like, he's like awesome, but I think he knows he's awesome. And it was like, I was like, is there a little bit of that going on? But boy, the more I listened to it, no, he's just awesome. He's just great. And so had a chance to hear him speak, and it just took me into a bunch of things. And so my recommendations from the world of Scott Stratten are his most recent book, has pictures, lots and lots and lots of pictures, which is high on my list, and it's called QR Codes Kill Kittens. And it is basically a fairly short book, pays a lot of attention to this idea of the QR code and how so many folks use a QR code just to use a QR code because it's supposed to be cool and these types of things, and it's driving them nuts. And he provides huge numbers of examples of it. You can go to YouTube and do a search on QR Codes Kill Kittens, and you'll get segments of the talk he does, which is hilarious to watch. But he will point out things like places that QR codes have appeared on a banner behind a plane. So there's this plane flying with this giant QR code behind it. And he's like, distance plus motion does not equal good scanning. And there's type of things. QR code on a door that opens up when you try and get close enough to scan the QR code so that it busts your arm and do those types of things. And so it's just example of these different types of marketing gone wrong, people trying to do stuff that make absolutely no sense, and it's done extremely funny. So QR Codes Kill Kittens is the book. Again, lots and lots of pictures, funny pictures, and there's words too. It's good, and he's actually I found it to be a great read, and it's a really fun one. And I'm sure available.
You showed me one of the videos, and it was hilarious. I love that because I'm not a fan of QR codes. And these would be things for people like me who aren't in that field at all. These are all things that we notice out in the world and don't realize that, oh, you mean somebody did have a plan? It just sucked. So that would be cool. I did enjoy that video. It was funny. He's a very good speaker.
Yeah, he is, and then I listened to him, and so the other point, like I said, he really, the thing that most impressed me about him is he really, what he talks about with such great passion and in such a funny way, he really lives. And that part of what he talks about in this idea of social marketing and connecting and all that, which is, if someone follows you, thank them. If someone starts listening to your podcast or makes a comment about your book, say thank you to them. And he goes, it's a really, it means a lot to people to have, if someone, it means a lot to him to have someone comment on his work, and he likes to thank him for it. And so I had gotten on the plane to fly back, decided to get the airplane Wi-Fi, which is not quite as good as gas station Wi-Fi, but airplane Wi-Fi is pretty good. And I had tweeted out that I enjoyed his speech a lot and that he had started a podcast, which I'll talk about here in a second. And I said, I've just subscribed to the podcast. And within, about 5 minutes, there's a tweet back from Scott saying high five, thanks for, those types of things. So he definitely does what he preaches. And so it's a good thing for them.
Are you giving people the impression that we will be that nurturing and supportive if they say nice things about us?
I'm going to go with no. I think it's something
that
for us
sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it's like it's good for Scott, and he's got, he'll have hundreds and thousands to deal with, and we might have smaller numbers, but it might not be a bad idea for us to try. But okay. I didn't realize I had.
You were setting me up for failure there, man.
Yeah, it's like, that's a problem. So, but let's focus on Scott and do that. But no, that's actually going to be a problem. So then, in terms of the podcasts, he has again, you do a search on Scott Stratten, you're going to find these, and they're video. They're a video podcast, so you can either subscribe to it and pull down the audio and listen to it, or you can basically go grab it on YouTube. They actually invest it's a pretty good setup in terms of it's him and another individual, and they're exchanging, and this is his wife actually, and they're exchanging information on different themes of, most recently he was talking about the wonderful world of book publishing and the changes that have occurred and how online publishing and self-publishing and these types of things and how it works. And it's just some pretty fascinating stuff because he talks about in that particular podcast this idea of, be careful when you read stuff. So like when people will say best seller,
it sold really well in their county.
In their sometimes sometimes the examples he was providing is so it might be the bestseller of a subcategory of a subcategory of a subcategory for the 2 days it was available for free, which isn't making it much of a seller. but so it's like, and where there was only one other book in that mix that was the bestseller. Or
that's cool. That's one of my topics that I really like to read about for some reason is book publishing. So I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, that's that one is it's good, and it's so it's not it's not wonky marketing stuff all the time. It's a variety of things, but it is things about the networked world and connecting and all those types of things. And he makes his trade by being a speaker and an author, so he talks through some of those things. The one I really liked was, and this was a friend of his who had been depicting a particular book as best-selling, and he was exploring it a little bit further. He goes, wow, it's actually a little, congratulations, that's really good, but best-selling one. Well, and the guy said, well, it's the best-selling one for me. It's my best-selling one ever. And he's like,
yeah.
But you've only written one. And he goes, I know. But so watch when you see bestseller, you might want to peel that onion back a little bit further. But yeah, it's good. He has a companion podcast tied to it. It's called Vegas Over 30. He is from Canada, and he speaks a lot. Obviously, he speaks a lot in Vegas, and that has become one of his favorite places. And so there it is, just he and his wife going through all sorts of different things to say, if you're not a crazy party hard 25-year-old hitting Vegas, you're a little older and you want to still have a good time, kind of explores different options in terms of, well, what do you think about downtown Vegas, and what about these things here, and what do you if you go into a casino and you want to kind of make your money last for a while, what are some strategies on there? So it's just a passion point of theirs. They have a lot of fun. So he's always really, really funny. And there's just some good information. But you can kind of get into the techie side. So Scott Stratten, check it out. I think the podcast on marketing is totally, I believe that actually the podcast is called the Unpodcast. So UN Podcast. The Unpodcast is the one I would recommend from there. So we've got his book. We've got Vegas Over 30 podcast and the Unpodcast from Scott Stratten. And then I'm going to go for a threefer and add one other element here. So Mel, you have seen, I assume in the past, the website www.n16os.com.
Yes.
Yes, you bring that up, and there's just one big button in the middle, and you press it, and you get the Darth Vader. No. That's Scott's. That's his website.
That's awesome.
He gave it up.
The voice of a generation.
There you go. He talked about that. So the conference I was at covered a lot of different things, but there was a healthy contingent of folks there that are kind of interested in search engine optimization and keywords, and this is one of the things that they're interested in. So he brought up his top keywords for his site, which are no with 3 zeros, no with 4 zeros, no with 5 zeros. So I optimize for these. And he goes, I'm talking to the only group ever that will find this funny. But it was his huge number of hits. He goes, everything I've done, I've written these books, I do the speaking, this is what I'm going to be remembered for. And so he's got that out there. It continues to just say no. But he has now released an Android app that you can get the No app for your Android, which will give you the same button.
You can scream no whenever you need to.
Yep, got the nice little No app there, and he has submitted it to Apple as well, but it has yet to clear the review process.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got it. You've got it online at www.no.com. You can get it on Android, and maybe sometime soon on the iPhone as well.
And I would imagine most of anyone who would find anything we say even remotely interesting would understand the feeling behind that no, because really, that's how we all felt. Star Wars.
And then Lucas had to go kick us in the gut again and go say, so you didn't like that no, and when I did it there, how about I bring it back and lay it on episode 3, and when he throws the Emperor down there, kind of his last kind of spit in our eye as he sold it to Disney.
As then they put Mickey Mouse ears on the Darth Vader helmet. They're actually selling that at Disneyland or Disney World. Have you seen that? My office had to listen to me have a total breakdown when I saw that picture of they've put mouse ears on the Darth Vader helmet and they're selling them. Oh God.
I had seen somebody did a really clever kind of fan film of mashing up to where you had Darth Vader walking through with the ears, all the stormtroopers had the mouse ears. Darth Vader's voice was actually Mickey's voice.
Oh.
And so it was that mashup of it, but I didn't think they had actually pulled the trigger in the parks to have Darth Vader ears. I saw a post. Now it could be faked. I don't know. I was so upset and angry I had to walk away. But it looked as if they were actually selling them in the gift shops, and I don't know. That it's funny, but it makes me furious at the same time. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because you know the Boba Fett teacup ride is not something I really want to see happen.
No, you can't mess with the Fett man. Just can't.
Sarlacc spinning him around. I don't know. It's gonna be bad.
Yes, it could be very bad, but yeah, we'll save that for one of our not very nurturing and supportive episodes in the future.
That's right, and I think we've actually kind of managed to fill the first episode quite well. And I will then say I had one other thing in my pocket, which was we're going to pretty much, because we're high road people, Melissa and I, we're high road people, of course. So mostly it's going to be recommendations on things you should try. But every once in a while you're going to come across some things you might want to warn people about. And yes. Maybe in a future episode I will offer one, because I do have one. So we'll maybe save that for episode 2.
Okay.
So there you go, episode 1 of Nurture and Support. Lots of recommendations. We'll put tons of links and additional information out on the website as well. So if you had a chance to listen to it and want to go back and find out a little bit more about what we've talked about, it'll be there. And that's all I got for today. Anything from you, Melissa?
No, that's all I've got. And feel free to hit us up on Twitter. I'm once again at Karmic9, but all those links will be up in the show notes of each episode at nurtureandsupport.net. And I hope you come back for episode 2, everybody.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Nurturing and supporting.